Jamal had been living on the streets for years. Every day felt like a relentless fight to survive. The cold was a constant companion, gnawing in his bones, and the hunger, a constant ache. He woke up on the same stretch of sidewalk, curled up in the torn blanket he had found in a dumpster. His clothes were worn thin, barely protecting him from the elements. The world around him seemed to speed by, oblivious to his existence. It had become a routine wake-up, search for food, avoid trouble, and wait for nightfall to fall asleep. Again. And through it all, Jamal had learned to accept his place in the world. After all, he was nothing. Just another forgotten soul in a city that had moved on without him. But today was different. Jamal woke up with a strange feeling, something stirring inside him. It was a gnawing sense of anticipation, as though the air around him was vibrating with the possibility of change. He couldn't place it, but it was there, hanging just beneath the surface. He had no idea what was coming, but deep down, he knew that something would happen today that would change everything. The familiar sounds of the city filled the air. People walking by, their footsteps quick and unbothered, the distant honk of a car, the buzz of voices. Jamal sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. He glanced at the sky, watching the gray clouds swirl above him. Everything felt strangely alive today, buzzing with energy. He shook his head, trying to shake the feeling. What did it matter? After all, he was just a man living on the street. Then came the sound. It was sudden and sharp, a loud screech of tires. Jamal's heart skipped a beat, his eyes snapping to the street just as a car came skidding toward him. The driver's face was filled with panic, eyes wide in terror. He was struggling to control the wheel, but it was clear the car was coming straight for him. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The car was too close, and there was no way for Jamal to move out of the way. He could feel the adrenaline pumping in his veins, the world suddenly sharp and focused. Without thinking, Jamal launched himself forward. With all the strength he could muster, he shoved the driver out of the way, sending him tumbling onto the pavement just as the car slammed into a lamppost, sending sparks flying into the air. The crash was deafening, but Jamal didn't stay to watch. His body was still shaking from the impact, but he didn't care. The only thing that mattered was that the man was safe. He had acted without thinking, without any desire for recognition. He didn't need to be seen, didn't need anyone to know what he had done. It was enough that the man was alive. The sound of sirens began to fill the air, and people rushed toward the wreck. Jamal didn't look back. He turned and disappeared into the crowd, fading into the shadows as if nothing had happened. But the truth was, something had changed. For the first time in years, Jamal felt like he had done something meaningful, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just his actions that had changed. It was something inside him. Days later, David Steele woke up in a hospital room. His head throbbed with pain, and he struggled to open his eyes. The world around him was blurry, and for a moment, he couldn't remember where he was. But then it hit him, the crash. The car had swerved, and then there was the homeless man. He had saved him. David's mind raced. Who was he? Why had he done it? Why would someone with nothing risk everything to save a stranger? David Steele was a millionaire, a successful businessman. He had everything: money, power, status, yet nothing had ever made him feel like this. The selflessness of that man haunted him. He couldn't stop thinking about him. It wasn't just the fact that his life had been saved. It was the fact that someone who had nothing, who had every reason to look out for himself, had thrown himself into danger to protect him. David didn't understand it, but he needed to. For days, David searched for the man who had saved him. He visited the hospital staff, asked around the neighborhood, and put up flyers. But no one knew the man's name. He was a ghost, a figure, who had vanished as quickly as he had appeared. The more David searched, the more obsessed he became. He had to find him. He had to know why. Was this just a random act of kindness? Or was there something more to it? Days turned into weeks. David's search became all-consuming. The world seemed to move around him, but he couldn't focus on anything else. Finally, after nearly giving up, he found Jamal sitting alone in a park. His clothes were tattered, his face weary, but there was something about him, something that made David feel like he had found what he had been looking for all along. David approached him carefully, unsure of what to say. Jamal didn't look up at first, lost in his thoughts, but when their eyes met, David felt an undeniable pull. There was a silence between them before David spoke. "You saved my life," he said, his voice heavy with gratitude. "I owe you everything." Jamal's expression remained unreadable. For a moment he didn't say anything. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "I didn't do it for you. I did it because it was the right thing to do." David's chest tightened at the words. There was no self-pity, no desire for recognition, just a simple statement of truth. And in that moment, David realized that this man, this stranger, was someone extraordinary. "I run a foundation," David said, his voice shaking slightly. "We help people who need a second chance. I want you to be a part of it. You can have a real chance to start over, no strings attached." Jamal's eyes narrowed as he processed David's words. The offer was too much to believe. He had been living on the streets for so long. How could someone like him possibly fit into a world like David's? "You want me to work for you?" Jamal asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. David smiled. "Not for me, for yourself. This is a chance for you to change your life. To be someone different. I believe you deserve it. Jamal didn't answer at first. He looked at the ground, his thoughts swirling. The idea of leaving the streets, leaving everything he had ever known, felt terrifying. But then, something inside him stirred. For the first time in years, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was something more waiting for him. I don't know, Jamal said softly. I don't know if I can do it. David placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder, his voice steady and sure. You don't have to decide now. Just know that the door is open when you're ready. Jamal walked away that day, the weight of the decision pressing on him. He didn't know if he was ready, but the offer was there. For the first time in his life, someone had seen him, really seen him, and it made him wonder if maybe, just maybe, he wasn't invisible anymore. The days that followed were filled with confusion and doubt. Jamal spent hours pacing the streets, replaying his conversation with David over and over in his mind. Could he really leave the life he had known for so long? Could he step into a world where he didn't belong? The fear of failure gripped him tightly, but there was something else, a flicker of hope, a tiny spark that had been buried deep inside him. Could he trust that spark? Could he trust himself? Finally, after days of internal struggle, Jamal made his decision. He walked to the foundation, his heart pounding in his chest. The doors were open, and for the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was stepping into something new, a new life, a second chance. Jamal's first day at the foundation was overwhelming. Everything was new. The people, the tasks, the expectations. He felt out of place, as though he was playing a role that didn't fit him. The staff was kind, but there was a sense of doubt in their eyes. Jamal could feel it. They didn't believe in him. Not yet. He didn't belong here. He wasn't supposed to. But then, something changed. Slowly, Jamal began to settle in. The work was hard, but he didn't mind. Every task he completed, no matter how small, gave him a sense of pride. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was thriving. He began to believe in himself, even if just a little. David noticed the change. He saw the way Jamal worked tirelessly, how he started connecting with the people around him. He saw the quiet strength that had been hidden beneath the layers of doubt and fear. David smiled to himself. Jamal had come further than he realized. You're doing great, David said one afternoon, as he watched Jamal handle a difficult situation. I knew you had it in you. Jamal smiled back, though his confidence was still fragile. I'm not there yet, he said, shaking his head. I still don't know if I belong. David placed a hand on his shoulder. You belong wherever you choose to be. As the months went by, Jamal's transformation became more apparent. He worked harder, learned faster, and grew stronger with each passing day. His fear of failure started to fade, but there were still moments of doubt, moments when he wondered if he was really capable of this new life. Could someone like him really change? Then came the day David offered Jamal the position of executive director of the foundation. Jamal's heart stopped as he heard the words, executive director. Him, just months ago, he had been living on the streets. This was too much, too soon. But as the shock wore off, something else took over. This wasn't just a job. This was his life, his chance to prove that he could be more than what the world had told him he was. David looked at him, his eyes filled with pride. You've earned this, Jamal. I always knew you could do it. Jamal's heart swelled with emotion, but he didn't have the words. He had come so far, and this moment was the culmination of everything he had worked for. He wasn't just a man who had survived the streets. He was someone who had found his purpose, and he wasn't going to let it go. Jamal's story is proof that sometimes all it takes is one decision, one act of courage, to change everything. From the streets to the top of a foundation, he found his second chance, and so can you. If Jamal can do it, so can you. Never give up on the possibility of change. You never know when the moment will come that alters the course of your life forever.